The courtroom hummed with restless energy. Papers rustled, lawyers murmured, and spectators waited for the gavel's echo. Judge Eleanor Hayes sat at the polished oak bench, expecting another routine hearing in the endless parade of defendants. Then the bailiff announced, "The state of Louisiana versus James Anderson." She glanced down at the file. Assault, robbery, resisting arrest. A jolt of disappointment struck her. Another lost cause, she thought. But the moment James Anderson shuffled in, wrists and ankles shackled, Eleanor's world tilted. The man before her, burdened eyes, slumped shoulders, was no stranger. He was James, the boy she used to race bikes with through dusty lanes, the friend she shared magnolia-scented secrets with. Her heart pounded. How had he ended up here? Hey fans, welcome to the channel. We've noticed most of you love watching our videos but haven't subscribed. Please subscribe. It takes a sec, it keeps you in the loop, and helps us bring you more epic tales. Now let's dive in. For the first time in her career, Eleanor almost dropped her gavel. The courtroom, oblivious, awaited her order. She forced her voice steady. "Mr. Anderson, you stand accused of assault and robbery. How do you plead?" His voice, now rough with age and hardship, cut through the hush. "Not guilty, Your Honor." The official script continued. Charges read, counsel acknowledged, but Eleanor's thoughts churned with memory and shock. She prayed she could hold herself together for both their sakes. As the prosecutor droned through an opening statement about James's alleged crime, Eleanor's mind drifted to Hammond, Louisiana, and two kids sitting beneath a spreading magnolia tree. She was from the right side of town, a modest but stable home with a white picket fence. James, meanwhile, lived in a weathered, clapboard house at the end of a dirt road, fields stretching behind. Their friendship was an anomaly in a segregated community. But they didn't care about townspeople's raised eyebrows or whispered disapproval. They fished in the creek, laughed over silly games, and confided dreams under summer stars. Once, James asked if she ever wanted to leave Hammond and find a place that didn't look at them strangely for sitting side by side. Eleanor, naive then, had teased him about being dramatic. But he was serious. Even as a child, James sensed the lines drawn around them. Then one day, a harsh confrontation with Eleanor's disapproving father drove them apart. His family soon moved, and she never saw James again. Now she blinked in the harsh fluorescent light of the courtroom. James sat at the defense table, shoulders hunched, gaze fixed on the floor. Eleanor's heart clenched. She had left Hammond, gone to law school, become a judge. But James? His rap sheet spoke volumes. Petty theft, loitering charges, scuffles. What had happened in his life while she was climbing the ladder of success? The prosecutor's case was straightforward, or so it seemed. James allegedly assaulted a store clerk and stole cash from the register. The evidence? One eyewitness, plus grainy convenience store footage showing a hooded figure fleeing. Then Lisa Porter, James's defense lawyer, rose to speak. Her voice rang with conviction. "The prosecution would have you believe this is open and shut, but it's not. The alleged suspect wore a red hoodie. The video is practically unwatchable. My client insists he had no hoodie, no stolen cash. We'll show there are serious holes in these allegations." Eleanor inhaled, her role demanding composure. She was bound to impartiality, but inside she wanted the truth, James's truth, to come out. The first witness, a store clerk who was off duty at the time, recounted a chaotic scene. However, the cross-examination revealed the witness never saw the attacker's face clearly. Tension laced the air. The store's outdated surveillance footage flickered onto a screen. A hooded figure, posture vague. The prosecution argued it was James. The defense contended it could be anyone of a similar build. Even the timestamp was off by a few minutes, indicating possible tampering. During a break, Eleanor retreated to her chambers. Her assistant asked if everything was okay. Eleanor's usual composure seemed shaken. She denied any problem, swallowing the urge to confess she knew James personally. No, that would jeopardize the entire trial. Back in court, the trial continued. The arresting officer testified that he'd found James loitering near the store, matching a vague description. Lisa pounced on the term vague, pointing out the suspect was described as wearing a red hoodie, but they found James wearing a gray jacket. The officer insisted James had likely discarded the hoodie. The defense asked if a thorough area search was conducted. He admitted it wasn't. Murmurs stirred in the gallery. Eleanor's mind flashed to young James, a fearless kid who'd once refused to back down from local bullies mocking him for being different. What had broken him down over the years? She wrestled with her duty not to intervene. Finally, the defense called James to the stand. He stood, shackles clanking faintly, avoiding Eleanor's gaze. His voice trembled. "I ain't perfect. I've messed up before. But this, I didn't do it. I was on my way home. The cops stopped me, assumed I was guilty because I fit some description. They never asked questions." Tears pricked Eleanor's eyes. She remembered him grinning at her over that fishing line, telling jokes to calm her nerves. Yet here he stood, battered by life. The morning session ended, the judge calling a recess. The weight of her position settled heavily on her heart. After lunch, Officer Harris, the arresting officer, took the stand once more. The defense grilled him on protocol lapses. No recovered hoodie, no thorough lineup, the eyewitnesses' inconsistent statements. It painted a picture of hasty arrest. The jury exchanged uncertain glances. A crack of doubt formed in the prosecution's case. The final blow came from a forensic analyst hired by the defense. She pointed out anomalies in the grainy footage's timestamp, suggesting it might not align with James's alleged presence in the area. "We can't conclusively identify the perpetrator from this video," she stated, "nor can we affirm the timeline beyond a reasonable doubt." Eleanor on the bench maintained a neutral expression, yet inside she wrestled with a swell of relief. If James was telling the truth, the system had nearly swallowed an innocent man. She clenched her gavel, feeling the push and pull of memory, regret, and the unstoppable wheels of justice. Closing arguments came swiftly. The prosecutor tried to salvage credibility, highlighting that James had prior run-ins with the law. He insisted the pattern spoke for itself. But Lisa countered that none of those incidents were violent, and each prior charge had been minor, often dismissed. The jury deliberated for hours. Tension thickened. James sat rigid, dread etched on his face. Eleanor watched him quietly, remembering how once he had confided his dream to become a mechanic and escape Hammond's stifling judgments. She wondered, had society's dismissals driven him into a cycle of petty arrests, or was he truly at fault? Late that afternoon, the jury filed back, solemn. The bailiff asked them to pronounce the verdict. "In the matter of the state of Louisiana versus James Anderson, we find the defendant not guilty." A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. Some spectators cheered softly. A wave of relief flowed across James's face, though tempered by exhaustion. Eleanor rapped her gavel, voice steady. "James Anderson, the jury has spoken. You are free to go." He exhaled, shoulders drooping, freed by due process, yet scarred by the ordeal. As the gallery emptied, reporters drifting away, Eleanor remained. Court staff tidied up. James approached, escorted by an officer removing his cuffs. He hesitated, meeting Eleanor's gaze for the first time since the trial started. His eyes flickered with a century of unspoken words. She swallowed the knot in her throat. Though it broke protocol, she offered a quiet apology. "Mr. Anderson, I'm sorry we had to meet again like this." He studied her face. Gone was the carefree grin of youth, replaced by careful wariness. "We all make choices," he murmured, half bitter, half resigned. "And life? It goes different ways." Eleanor nodded, tears threatening. She wished she could ask what happened, how he fell through the cracks, why they lost touch. But their roles in this moment, judge and defendant, left no room for such intimacy. "I hope," she began, but he only offered a small nod and turned, leaving with Lisa Porter, his lawyer. The bailiff locked up behind them. Standing alone, Eleanor clasped the gavel. The past battered her mind, memories of secret laughter on a porch step, of starlit confessions. She'd chosen law. James had drifted into a different path. Now, at least, he was free from a false charge. Maybe it wasn't too late for him to find a better life, and for her to remember the justice system served flesh-and-blood people. She forced herself to stand straighter. An old friend, once lost, had nearly been condemned by the very institution she trusted. There was a lesson in that. She resolved to scrutinize future cases with deeper compassion, to remember that each file on her bench belonged to someone's son, daughter, or childhood friend. That evening, in the quiet of her chambers, Eleanor set aside her judge's robes and gazed out the window at the fading sky. She couldn't fix all the wrongs that had shaped James's path, but perhaps she could help others caught in similar nightmares. That was the power of her seat. And maybe, if fate allowed, she might find a way to reach out to James again, away from the court's formalities, to offer a true apology for an old promise left unkept. For now, she clutched the recollection of his relieved face. A single verdict couldn't erase years of hardship, but it was a start. And if there was anything she'd learned today, it was that no childhood bond, no innocent memory, was truly forgotten. Life might change the scenery, but the roots of hope, like an old magnolia tree, ran deep. Love this story? Do us a quick favor. Hit the like and subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it.